All right, welcome back. Now, time for us to talk about something very important where they happened for inside Wiobodo, Nigeria protesting. Now, just inside the paper, we see and say very soon there will be a 5 million man protest as regards to the killing for inside Benue State. Now, apart from that, we don't see a lot of protests going on in Nigeria. How far this protest will actually go to make our message heard by federal government? How far this protest will actually go to make sure, say, people understand the plight where a particular group of persons they actually go through. Now, what we want to discuss this morning, and we get no other person but the man himself, the lead convener on top the EndSars initiative. You go tell us more about him. And join me, welcome Shegun Awosonya inside the house. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
the
for
show.
coming.
Okay, now we don't see, say, when it comes to protests in Nigeria, we don't get countless of protests, right from even when the country was created, even to this present day. And even for the papers, in addition to waiting, we talk, we get the situation of, for inside Cross River State, of what the doctors now, they talk, say they won't start, very soon start their strike. Ekiti, not too long ago, we had the workers also on strike. They don't call them off. Ondo also, we get, during the Christmas, we also get the fact that they also, we start their strike, but they ended it around the 27th of December of last year, 2017. Now, protests, it can't be like, say, protest na regular thing. It can't be like water, where you just drink from cup, put your water down. Really, how effective protests don't be in our country, not even going close to ASU, and the reason why they always strike from time to time.
Well, when we look at protest, you know, we need to look at it from different perspectives. There are institutional protests, and there are protest citizenry to government kind of protest, or workers to employers kind of protest. Now, most of the protests that you see in this region, you know, that are a little bit effective that we hear about are the ones that are the organizational protests. Say, my employer is unfair to me, and all of us have decided to come together to protest against that. You know, those ones work. But in a situation where the people who are, and the government, you know, are having disagreement in terms of people feel the negligence of the government, and they want to express their dissatisfaction or, you know, disagreement with government, and so it is always very difficult in Nigeria to pull that off, because most of the time people have there's this this fear in them to come out to protest, because Nigerians are peace-loving people. When you push Nigerians to the wall, they dig a hole. So they don't spring back, you know, that easily, because everybody just want to go about their business without looking for any trouble. But over time, you know, when you put an individual in a toxic environment, no matter how gentle that person is, the person, after a while, the person will begin to misbehave somehow. His behavior they change from a natural behavior. So based on that discontent, say, I not be myself. You know, by the time we now agree amongst ourselves, say, we are not okay, we could now come together to say, we want to, you know, protest against this anomaly where they make us misbehave for ourselves. So most of this most of this discontent, you know, when it fills up to an extent, you see organizations who have some interest begin to tap into that thing, you know, begin to, you know, try to milk that opportunity, you know, for their own gain. So we have seen that in the last few years, you know, we had the subsidy protest, which was one of the largest in Nigeria. You know, of course, by the time people started interosculating, started bringing together, piecing the pieces together to see how the components of that protest, how it came to be, you realize that it was heavily financed by political parties. So when governments see citizens protest, the first thing they say is, it was politically sponsored. If they see something happen, you know, most of our situations in the country have been politicized. So because of that, people don't see what is genuine and what is not, if it's not institutional. But for the first time in Nigeria, at least for the first time that I know since coming of age, we are seeing Nigerians now speak out in one voice against something that they cannot stand, which is police brutality. And that's what birthed the EndSars Reform Police NG movement.
Now, before we talk about the EndSars initiative now, let's talk about protests in Nigeria, because Luchi has a very valid question. And you come outside talk, say, most of the protests in Nigeria are politically motivated. So does it mean that because they are politically motivated for some selfish reason, it's not very effective?
Well, the effectiveness, again, if you're trying to judge the effectiveness of protest, as it were, it should be a case of we show our agitation, and then the people that we're showing agitation towards gives us a response. It's just like a communication. When you communicate, you need feedback. And with the feedback, you can make adjustments. So from what we see, people cannot easily say, oh, this protest is not genuine, or this one is this, or this one is that, based on what you can see. Because at times, you ask people, when you pick people in the crowd, and you say, why are you here? And they tell you, I don't know, somebody gave me 2,000 naira and asked me to hold this billboard. And then you go around and ask people, okay, why are you here? They don't really know, you know, because they were paid to do so. And organizations do it. Government agencies do it. Police did this recently in response to EndSars. So when you see protests, to determine how effective protests are, you need to begin to see what exactly, how articulate are the demands of the people involved in this protest.
So from protest, let's just, I'm so sorry, I don't want to, we will not come up for this particular topic. Now from protest, let's just link it to strike now, because Luchimbi made a valid point. A lot of states, institutions and sectors, like the medical sector, where we know even the teachers, even pensioners too, they go on strike. Would you say these are politically motivated too? And how can strike be more effective in Nigeria? Okay,
you see, the thing is, when you look at protests and strikes, you know, these are semantics most of the time. But again, we know what we mean in Nigeria when we say there's a protest, there's an agitation, there are activists, there are, you know exactly what we're talking about. So when you look at, like I said, institutional, you know, I defined it earlier on that when you're talking about protest, you need to look at it as individual and institutional, or the public, as the case may be. So in this situation now, when we have people protesting or going on strike because of some discontent they have towards their organization or institution, you know, it's a different thing entirely, because most of this organization or association, maybe association of medical doctors or what have you, or ASU or what have you, we're coming together to protest. They are actually doing this based on the breach in the agreement, you know, of their contract. If you tell me I'm employed and I'm entitled to some benefits and I don't get those benefits, it is within my rights to come out and say, we, the organization, association of so and so, we have agreed to show our discontent towards your negligence, towards your
I think
agreements.
I should hold you on that, because when we come back, we'll talk about, because now talking about ASU, we have seen the going on strike coming back, going on strike coming back. How if we actually just go on strike once and our message will be heard and we will get good response. We'll talk more concerning that right after the break. But for now, GBK does start that shame to some small things of waiting they happen for inside Wazobia, Nigeria in the news. Stay with us. We'll talk about it.
Good morning, and this is Nadik Pakpakpa from it on top of the Good Morning Nigeria show. My name is Najibike Ogunlade. On top of our very first story this morning, we presidency don't come out here and say the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration said they don't lack the capacity at all to protect all of Nigerians. Now, a special advisor to the President on top media and publicity levels, Ogafemi Adesina na yan this one inside one video where we saying carry put on top Twitter. Now, when they react to the recent badness, is where we say they share inside Benue and Rivers State, Mr. Adesina been they explain say this badness will be say shele so say it is very, very regrettable, but also we federal government go make sure say justice they carried out very, very fast as right now. Say them been they do them been they process the justice levels on top of the badness where we say shele inside Rivers State. Also, organization of they explain say 8 people so say they don't grab them because of say they get hand inside the badness so essentially for Benue State, and right now say they appear before different courts. Now, organization don't come out promise the federal government promise say we federal government go make sure say they create better laws where we say go take their course in case all those people we say they don't carry, they don't grab on top of these levels, they very, very guilty. Now, the Federal Executive Council don't come out and say they don't approve about 5.4 billion naira. So this money so say they want to take reconstruct the 9th mile Otukpo Road, where we say they link Enugu and Benue states. Now, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Oga Babatunde Fashola, and I yarned this one yesterday after the 2018 FEC meeting, where we say Oga Muhammadu Buhari and being lead. Now, Oga Fashola been there explained that the Benue section of the road project say they under construction presently, and also said by the time they've been completed this one, said this one go increase agricultural activities in both Benue and Enugu states. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Aviation, Oga Hadi Sirika, don't come out here and said their council said they don't approve an independent power plant. Said this one go to service the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport for Abuja. Now, Oga Hadi Sirika been the explain say all the challenges where we say the airport's been the face presently, where we say water been there, their sewage been there, they say in little stages, then they go address all these little challenges. Now, we don't hear say the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said they don't carry certificate of registration, give 22 newly registered political parties. Now, during the presentation ceremony yesterday, INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, they explained that these ones where we said don't enter, so they don't make the total number of registered political parties enter 68. Now, Professor Yakubu said don't come out to advise all these new parties, so some of them make sure that they operate within the law at all times, and also you don't advise them, some of them they listen to the tenets of the democracy, and also make sure say everything we say and do so is within the rule of law. Still on top of this level also, Oga Yakubu they expressed that joint body so said they continue so they treat future applications fairly and honestly based on the provisions of the law. Now, moving on into Benue State, we don't hear say the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, they don't come out here and say they don't register about 80,000 internally displaced persons all across the 4 camps where we say they located in Goma and local government areas of the state. Now, the executive secretary of the joint body, so Emmanuel Shio, been the explain all those people where we say not get house again onto the badness where we say Shelley right now. So then they inside the government approved camps at Daudu, Seginde and Gajimba. Now, according by Oga Emmanuel also, they explain, say, I said they go create more camps because of the increase of people where we say they come from Nasarawa State. That one are people where we say not get house or anything at all. Now, the executive secretary also been the explain, said the joint body right now said they're currently overwhelmed with the number of humanitarian services. However, they don't come out to them. Say they go make sure say they do their best to make sure say every person where we say they with them, say the person will go live below the set standard. Now, for inside Bayelsa State, so we don't hear say the Bayelsa State Command of the National Security and Civil Defense Corps, that one at the NSCDC, don't come out here and say they've been destroyed over 500 illegal oil refining camps last year for different areas of the state. Now, the state commandant of the Corps, Godwin Nwachukwu, na this one yesterday, when they review all the better things what we said their joint body been do for 2017. And the commandant been explained 2 tankers where we say they carry illegally refined automotive gas oil, so then also been colobi them. On top of this one also, Oga don't come out to drag in here, so make all these people where we say they choke their hand, they do illegal work, so make them stop them. Because if they grab them, then a serious punishment, now all of these people go face. And on top small business levels this morning, we don't hear say the Kwara State government now, they don't come out and say they want to create a farm produce commodity board. So this one where we say they want to create so this one go help farmers, make them they market all the things where we say that they produce inside their farms. Now the State Commissioner for Informate, Babatunde Ajay this one yesterday during one news conference after the State's Executive Council sit down discuss as this one been shared inside Ilorin. Oga Ajay been they explain said the council don't approve the establishment of the board and said the way we say they go do this one so say it gets one board where we say they also get one old commodity board of committee where we say they get inside the 80s, so they go make sure say the thing they very similar with the one where we say they don't do before. Now the commissioner been the explain said this commodity board by the time they create and finally say this one go they private sector driven and go help promote agriculture inside the state. And also Oga Babatunde been the explain said the council don't order the State Attorney General plus the Commissioner of Justice may then send the bill go the House of Assembly so that quick they go establish the board. And for my last story for Inside Zambia, we don't hear say the World Health Organization, yes, they don't come out here and say Zambia now say they don't launch massive cholera vaccination campaign after the recent outbreak of the disease, being say about 2,672 cases and 63 deaths since October. Now, the WHO representative inside Zambia, Dr. Nathan Bakyaita, they explain say plenty vaccine there on ground to make sure say they treat about up to 1 million people inside that obodo. According by Oga Nathan, also they explain say this campaign so this one supposed to help stop cholera and make sure say they prevent and make it no blow into a very, very terrible state. Now, the WHO have done come out and say they help different people inside Zambia to make sure say they coordinate this vaccination program so that everybody will benefit from All right, and that information don't carry on for again this wonderful morning. Yes, don't forget to say, on top any other kind of information, always, our website today available, www.wazobiatv.tv. And the Good Morning Naija show still to continue. It's my name, Najibike Ogunlade.
Good morning, sir. Adúpẹ́ mo bóyìnbó.
Ẹ káàárọ̀ ẹ̀yin ọmọ Naija.
Òtútù ọmọ o.
Ndewono.
Jama'a.
Ndị Igbo anyị.
Ina kwanan ku Nigeria.
Ụtụtụ ọma ne. Ndị Nigeria. Unu watch ihe anyị na-eme.
Kuna kallo.
So make you dey listen, make you dey watch every time on top Wazobia TV. Make you dey watch Good Morning Naija. MC Prince, na him talk am.
Welcome back, and thanks to GBK for the news update which you don't give us. All right, still in the building here, we get the Universal Reformed Advocate in the building, in the studio with us, none other than Mr. Shegun Awosonya, and we still discuss the issue of protest for inside the country and the way to go, how effective it really is. And I know say we'll be asked a question just before we back small break, so we take it on.
Because we try to talk about protest and even strike and how to get our message across to the people we're supposed to make life better for us for inside Obodo, Nigeria. And we talk about strike. Now, how we fit make strike they very conk, where go be say
Really conk.
yes, to be very casual.
Effective, you mean?
Yes, now
Okay.
to be very effective, so that we're not going to do them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Well, what first we need to understand is if as an advocate, it is not a personal thing. You know, you are not fighting a personal battle. The people that you are trying to convey your message to, they are not your enemies. Those are the first things you need to understand, that this is just a breach of probably a duty, or it's due to negligence, or due to communication lapses, or what have you. So once you have this at the back of your mind, if you are actually advocating for people, you need to understand that these people have families, these people are human beings, and you need to represent them effectively without twisting the message in any way to favor, in any way, lest you destroy what you're trying to fight for. Mm-hmm. So when government looks at the ingenuity of the advocacy or the strike action or the protest, when they look at it, they want to see the authenticity. Are they for real? Or is it that they are being sponsored? That's the first thing every government, every organization wants to look at. Is this real, or is it our enemies trying to get back at us by creating unrest? Because these things happen, especially in democracies. People can be paid to create unrest.
And that can be determined from dialogue?
Well, from before you actually get to the street, when you start writing, for example, people have been writing the government open letters. They've been trying to say, look, this has been happening, and we need responses. They've been talking to government, their local government, their reps, and they're not getting feedbacks. And then they're now saying, look, we will show discontent by coming to the street to show the world that, look, we are actually displeased with our government. So when this happens, government begins to engage and say, okay, these people are down tools if they are organization, or the people of the youth in the country are on the street and they are disrupting the civility of the environment or the society, and because of this and that.
Okay,
So,
now make we even look. I need to come in at this point in time because a lot of times just before strike, like ASU as case study, and ASU go talk say they won't go on strike. They fit to start the strike, then come back to the drawing board with the federal government or the stakeholders involved, and they go say, okay, you know what, in these your terms and conditions, we would address it. And they go back, start work. All of a sudden, it's not being addressed. It can't be like say like when we talk, they are going back and forth. How really we fit to avoid this kind of situation? Because right now our educational sector is in what my part they call shambles. Really, how can this be?
almost all sectors of Nigerian economy is in shambles right now. You know, it has always been over time, but it has deteriorated, you know, as we proceed. And like I said earlier on, before we came on air, these are due to institutional gaps. And what are institutional gaps? For example, you know, when people go to school, they graduate from their universities, but the moment they get out of school, they just look for jobs without actually applying themselves in most cases. They just look for jobs. Most people, you find them not doing what they read in school. So because they are not applying themselves, there is a gap. There's this gap widening between the town and the gown. In other words, between the institutions and the society. The same way we have such gaps, we have from government and the people.
Okay, you know what? I think to understand this better, let's talk about one thing where I know say you and a person where they campaign for and you are the convener of the EndSars initiative as a universal institutional reform advocate for UP. Tell us how productive or how effective the EndSars initiative don't be.
Especially with respect with social media.
Okay. First and first, protests don't just start on the street. Neither does protest start with making a billboard or making a placard. Protests start from you understanding the problem. You have identified the problem, you understood the problem, you have articulated, you know, what the problem is, what constitutes the problem, and how you hope to address that problem, and what you believe government can do for you. Because one thing, the reason why people go into protests is because we know that if there is no umbrage or public outrage, as the case may be, no politicians will move for your cause or do fix that thing. If government don't see people show discontent about anything, they're not going to fix it.
So have there been a movement for your cause, the EndSars initiative?
For the EndSars movement, what we did was we looked at the situation, we isolated the problem, we raised awareness, educated the public for over 5 years or more.
How did you educate them?
We've been on Twitter. We've been advocating on Twitter, social media.
What were you really advocating for?
As at that time, we were looking at the society, as it were, government and the people, then letting people understand their rights, then isolating a societal problem or identifying a societal problem. Because the universal institutional reform does not just talk about the police brutality. EndSars is just an objective, you know, which is different from the end goal of, you know, reforming the police or electoral reform. Or, you know, there's several other things that we need to look at to bridge that institutional gap that we are having that is causing deaths of the people, that is causing or showing too much laxity of the government, of the people. Because most of the time, governments don't see everything.
Okay, I'm going to need to come in here because of time now. So for you, social media, that actually help in terms of championing a campaign like what you do now, like the EndSars advocacy?
It makes it very easy. Very, very easy. It makes it very easy for you to get to the people with the consistency of your message, the articulation of the things that you want to do, and because it's a common ground thing, it's something everybody can identify with. You don't really need to pay. We all see police every day. We know if you pick 5 people in Nigeria now, 3 of them have experience with SARS, you know, and the other 2 have relatives who have experience with SARS.
So let's take it back to your first comment when you come outside to say some of all those protests are politically motivated. Yeah. And I remember reading the paper and I see that most people believe, say, this EndSars initiative was politically motivated. Was it?
No, actually,
anyway, would you tell me it was?
Not most people. It's just a few people trying to sound us out to see if this is actually a political movement or not. And they've actually seen, because as at that moment, they were in denial. And we have moved from stage of denial to actually a state of attack or of defense. They are trying to defend themselves by hiring crowd, you know. Then later they went into exploration that, man, actually these people are for real. And they are not, you know, this is not politically motivated. We have not seen, of course, if police control EFCC, they control a lot of things. If we have been receiving funds from anybody, they will know.
Okay, so I would like to ask now, you feel say so far so good, thus far on top of this campaign where they do on social media, you feel say there's been a form of success?
Yes, there have been. We've been making a lot of progress because we've been having meetings with, we've had a dialogue with the Senate, we've had dialogue with the House of Rep, they've constituted another committee to look at the human rights abuses of the police, and then also we are also investigating and preparing for hearing of the, from the victims of SARS as a way.
So what would I want how, for my last question, how would I want make the SARS situation end in the long run?
Well, the SARS situation is not really something police can do because they cannot reform themselves. So what we're looking at is the advantage of, that's why we're dialoguing with the National Assembly. There need to be a constitutional amendment towards the Police Act. The Police Act needs to be revisited because what we have in the Police Act, it is anachronistic. It is not, you know, there for this kind of time. We live in the 21st century. Because when police see picking with phone, where they feel saying a weapon of mass destruction in be, see a young person dressing nicely, you know, driving a car, you say you should come down, come enter motor. Because of that, you won't go detain them.
I truly wish I can keep you yet. We keep you yet tomorrow because we need to talk about this in details. But thank you so much, Mr. Segun Awosonya, Universal Institutional Reform Advocate. We follow us talk about protesting and even the EndSars initiative. Now, if you want to know more concerning them, follow them on top Twitter in there at Segalink. Segalink, SEGALINK. So follow him, and then if you want to support the movement, you can support him too on top Twitter. And he's also there on top Instagram too, the same name, Segalink. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to need to pass more break now. When we'll come back, we're going to need to just wrap the show.
I think it's a wrap. But we'll try and bring you back again so that we can talk more again concerning police brutality and the way forward.
Very enlightening.
Thank you very much. So see you again tomorrow. In peace and not in pieces. My name is Sirimen Uvi Ehigamusoy.
And she's winning a big goat as the best graduating student in her class. My name remains Luchi Inobong.
I did not win that.
I said you will. Don't worry. I will share the goat with you. Thank you.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.